fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what good thing to say? I dabbled in stand-up or something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockbin, Facebook, even when they allow me there, Twitch sometimes. So this podcast is everywhere. Before I bring in our fabulous guest, I have a stand-up comedy show to promote. Also, thank you to everybody who came out and saw me in Dallas last week. It was so much fun. I had a great time. I recorded a little bit of what I think will be a pregnancy special. So I will keep you abreast of that as I either put out the whole thing or I'll cut up clips. We'll see how good the tape turns out. But you have one more chance to see me very pregnant doing stand-up comedy this month. Shucks, we're in February already. So come see me February 24th. That's a Saturday out in Morris Plains, New Jersey. I'll be headlining Tiff's Ale House, also known as the Dojo of Comedy. My good friend Keanu Thompson will be featuring, and Andrew Harms from my Compound Media show. The West Spot will be there doing a spot as well. So it'll be really, really fun. And I'll probably be recording this as well, too. So come on in. You can't buy me a drink, but you can buy Keanu a drink. And you'll just have to drink one on my behalf. They have very strong drinks at this club. Okay, that's all. And as a reminder, Friday Night Tights tomorrow will be starting at 12 p.m. Eastern instead of our usual 4 o'clock Eastern time. Okay, enough of that. I'm so excited to bring this gal in. I think she's super interesting. She is a social media coordinator, kind of working in the conservative niche of Canadian politics. And we have some kind of cool breaking news to talk about. So I'm so excited that she's here to break it down for us. Welcome to the show, Cat Kanada.
Thank you, Chrissie. Thanks for having me.
I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah, it's Cat Kanada.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, and you're from Canada. You're in Canada.
For those who might not know, Canada is not my actual last name. It's just my Twitter name, my social media name.
Okay.
Because I am from Canada. Yeah.
I was about to kind of make fun of it. And then I was like, well, what if it is her real name? So I decided against it. So now
I wouldn't hold it against you, Chrissie. It's okay. Canadians, we're nice. We're not angry people.
Too nice. Canadians, you're too nice. And that's your problem, is you let too much slide over there in Canada. We were supposed to go live a few hours ago this afternoon, but there was some kind of very interesting breaking news going on out of Canada that Cat had to cover because she is important and she covers these sort of things with her job. So Cat, if you want to break it down a little bit for us, because I have some listeners out of Canada, but I do need a Canadian translator from time to time.
No problem. So we had a huge announcement from our one of our Canadian premiers, which is sort of like a governor from the States. So from Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith made an announcement yesterday, and it was a landmark announcement where she told that she's putting forth a policy that will essentially ban minors under the age of 18 from receiving radical trans surgeries, as well as banning I'll have to double check this, but I believe people 16 and under from chemical interventions, chemical treatments for transitioning. So that was a
So hormone, right?
monumental,
So yeah,
yeah,
hormones and that stuff that they
puberty
give
blockers as well.
to sex
Yeah,
offenders, yeah, to keep their.
exactly,
It's the stuff
exactly.
that sterilizes you, basically.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
which is, it's insane that you even have to, have a premier say, "Well, we shouldn't be doing this." Like it's crazy that it came to this point where we said, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't be giving chemicals to minors that are used for, sex offenders essentially, and causing irreversible damage, forcing them to become a lifelong pharma patient, among other much more dire consequences." So she was the first one to announce this policy, which, people with a rational mind are hoping will embolden other premiers to do the same, because it's always hard to be the first one to do it, especially in woke Canada, where things are getting kind of crazy. We're hoping to fight some of that. So yeah, I'm a lot of parents like myself, and obviously a whole bunch of others, are hoping that this will be a watershed moment for Canada to get some common sense back and follow the likes of some of the Western European countries that have completely banned these types of interventions for minors. So it was a huge announcement, and I'm excited about it because, as I said, I'm hoping this will catch on across
Is
country.
Danielle Smith known as more liberal or more conservative? Like, where does she
She's
kind of lean?
conservative. She's
Okay.
conservative. So she was the premier that was at the Tucker Carlson event in Alberta.
Ah.
So it was Tucker Carlson, Jordan Peterson, and Danielle Smith. Yeah, she's definitely on the conservative side here in Canada. She is pro, pro oil and gas industry. She's against, all the unfeasible green energy agendas that are being pushed from Ottawa, which is essentially where Trudeau and his ilk reside. So yeah, we're hoping that she'll inspire more premiers to stand up and do the same.
And Kat, is this your pinned tweet here where you're with Tucker Carlson and he's talking about how Canada is a civilized country? It's shocking that this could happen here. This is the event that you were mentioning.
Yeah, that's so.
I'm gonna
Sure,
play a
go
little
for it.
clip of this. Yeah, because this is very exciting that you're able to nab him for a comment.
It's just 30 seconds.
It's still some. It's
This is
30
not just a
seconds longer
civilized
than
country.
I've
This
spent
is
with
the
him.
most civilized country in the world.
That's right.
And so if it can happen here, it's a very ominous harbinger of what the rest of us are about to get. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, because America is about like 5 years behind Canada.
Exactly,
So-
and about 20 minutes down the road. So we should be paying attention, but we're not. And our State Department, of course, is not going to raise human rights objections when you have political prisoners rotting in Alberta. Really?
That's right.
I agree.
Very cool. Whose hand was on your shoulder there? Is that one of his
Oh,
like
that's my-
handlers?
No, that's my friend Andy Lee. She's
Okay,
another.
okay. Okay, good.
She
I was just
with me.
worried that
She was
someone was
supporting.
trying to like peel you away from him.
Well, his security team did a really good job trying to keep away the fans, so they kept him nice and safe, which is good. But thanks to a friend who had a spot at the VVIP section, was able to get me in there, and I managed to grab his attention to have a few moments with him to chat about what he's there to talk about.
Wow. Okay. So what do you think Danielle Smith is going to be up against in terms of pushback for this latest
Oh
development?
boy. Yeah, she's already up against it. There's already been just a tidal wave of pushback. Everyone on the left is melting down, calling her dangerous. They're saying this is egregious. They're saying that she's targeting children with this policy that's essentially not even in place yet. She's just announced it. The details are to be determined on how that's going to flesh out. So they're already losing their minds, and we already have a specific spot where we're collecting these meltdowns to kind of compile them and show people how crazy they've taken this. And yeah, the pushback will be severe. As I said, it's already started. They're losing their minds about it, as you can see there that
And
you're
this will
pulling up that tweet. Yeah.
This clip here, Rachel Notley thinks minors not being able to chop off their healthy body parts is a violation of the Charter of Rights. And the Charter of Rights is basically the Canadian, I guess,
Yeah.
Constitution or Bill of Rights equivalent.
Yeah, it's basically a Bill of Rights equivalent. It's the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It guarantees things like, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of association. So I'm not quite following how exactly she thinks that violates that Charter of Rights. I don't exactly see lopping off healthy body parts as a right in Canada when I read through the charter, but these people make crazy leaps and crazy connections and things that obviously aren't there. That's just the left, projection, lies, gaslighting, completely misrepresenting your position. Pretty typical meltdown.
They're just like our left in the United States. There's a lot of similarities. So who is Rachel Notley?
So Rachel Notley is the former leader of the New Democratic Party in Danielle Smith's province of Alberta. Very left, very crazy. As you can imagine, think Gavin Newsom, think all the lefties out in America, like similar, everything about climate change hysteria, the whole transgender movement, LGBTQ movement being pushed onto kids in schools. That's her. That's the left in Canada.
And who are these two soulless cheerleaders on the other side of her who look dead inside? Are this part of her crew?
I'm not sure who the long-haired person is. I think it's a transgender person that she brought on to kind of make some salient points on her behalf, saying as a sidekick, hey, look, I've got transgender friends, and they say this is dangerous, and they say kids definitely should be able to make these decisions at 14 instead of 18.
It's her one black friend. She's like, look, here they are. Yeah.
And that definitely does not make her any kind of bigot, because look, she's got a friend. She's got a friend and everything from the community. So she's an ally, and she wants you to know that.
She's such a good ally. Okay, let's play a little bit of this clip.
There's no question that this horrifying policy will be tested and rejected by our courts. As such, the Premier will likely consider using the notwithstanding clause, which is yet another conservative attack on our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. If the courts are telling you that your policy is attacking the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the rights of individual citizens, that should be a clear indication that you're not doing the right thing. We in the NDP believe that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is an essential foundational document for all Canadians, and that human rights must be protected no matter whose human rights and what human rights we are focused on preserving. There's no question.
And this is the same issue we have with the left in America, is that they genuinely see this gender affirming treatment as a human right. They don't see it as sterilization. They don't see it as mutilation. It's like, how do you reason with someone who thinks who puts it in line with healthcare? Because that's what they genuinely believe.
Well, I mean, there is no reasoning with them, because let's say you present them with the argument, well, if a kid can't, let's say, make a decision to get a permanent life-altering, choice at 15, that's, let's say, I don't know, getting a tattoo. You contrast that with something much more severe, like, sterilization, mutilation, chopping off healthy body parts. It doesn't compute in their mind for some reason. Like, you can't drink alcohol in Canada until you're either 18 or 19, depending on the province. And I know it's 21 in the States. So you can't even make the decision to have a drink, yet you can make the decision to do something so permanent and drastic and severe. It's mind-boggling.
And I saw you, didn't you retweet something that you can't even use a tanning bed in Canada till you're 25? Is that correct?
I don't believe that's the case. That wasn't me tweeting it out.
Okay.
But maybe there is a certain age where you can't enter a tanning salon. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I don't use tanning beds, but it's very possible. Like, I mean, we can't drink until we're 19. We can't get married without our parents' permission if we're 18 or under 18. Yet we can go and make these kinds of decisions. And we've had some egregious cases happening here. I believe there was a young person, she was 14 years old, and she was convinced that she needed to get this done, and she wanted to go through the social transition first, and then I'm sure, through more drastic measures after, as the case typically goes for young people like this. And the court said the father had objections. The mother was very woke and was willing to completely onboard her child with all of this nonsense. And the court said, the father must be kept away. And if he doesn't use, like, let's say, the pronouns or the new chosen name, I believe he was even jailed for this. Like, it's lunacy here. It's pretty crazy.
We have cases like this in the States as well. And what she's talking about here, the non-withstanding clause, the clause would allow federal, provincial, or territorial governments to temporarily override or bypass certain charter rights. So it's like you can basically completely disregard the Charter of Rights, and you can basically override Danielle Smith's decisions. So if they want to use this as which has been very rare, only done a few times ever. It is known as the nuclear option because it's considered extremely severe, since the Constitution was, I should really know how to pronounce this word, patriated in 1982. Patriated. The clause has been used only a handful of times. The federal government has never invoked the clause. So they're thinking of using this as a way to go against Danielle Smith, basically outlawing this gender-affirming surgery and care.
So if you scroll back up to the top a little bit, I believe that actually also says provincial. And during her live announcement today, post her initial announcement yesterday, I believe she was actually being questioned if she is going to use the notwithstanding clause, because it does give provinces the authority to use this clause. So thankfully, she would be able to use this clause to override federal government. So, and
Oof.
The lefty reporters were already grilling her about it, saying, well, are you going to use the notwithstanding clause? Are you prepared to use this clause? Basically trying to frame her in the worst possible light, saying, she's just going to railroad through everything. And, Danielle Smith, this isn't her first rodeo. So she was obviously saying, well, of course, this is not our first option. We're going to do everything we can to work to come to some sort of middle ground. And I believe she did that, by putting forth this very sensible policy of hers. And hopefully it doesn't have to come to the part where she does use the notwithstanding clause. But I think people would support her, even if she did, because this is our kids. This is the kids of our country that are making these choices that could potentially ruin their life forever and or worse, as we have seen,
and it is concerning to see the folks that come out so passionately against this, and it's like, what's your true motivation? Like, it's a little bit when you see people wanting to take the rights away from parents, from they want to take away the rule you have over your own kids that you've born and raised and poured your heart and soul into. Then we have, and so you said Alberta is pretty woke and leftist, and this guy, I'm not sure. Okay, this is Randy Boissonnault, and he is already coming out very much against this. Racial gender theory adherent Randy Boissonnault is calling Smith's announcement that minors should not be able to access radical trans surgeries a NATO moment for the queer community. He imagines a strange scenario where this will somehow marginalize queer kids. Again, they see this like healthcare, like getting your eyes checked, like getting a physical.
I read the policy she's intending to put in place, and then I spent the night consoling people on the phone. I had people who offered to help, who are from the trans community and the queer community, and to a person, they broke down on the phone crying and saying, please help us. What can we do? How can you help? How can we work together? This isn't a question about parental rights. This is about keeping kids safe. This is a unilateral ideological move by Danielle Smith and the UCP government to marginalize kids, to other them, and to out not just trans and gender but non-binary kids.
Notice how anytime the government loses control or the left loses control, they call it marginalization. Like they've used those victim vocabulary.
Kids. You're going to go to a school as a young queer kid or a gender questioning kid and now have to look over your shoulder to wonder which of your other students are going to out you so that they call your parents. Nobody calls you when you join the chess club. Nobody calls your parents when you join the...
This is a horrible metaphor he's making.
Nobody calls your parents when you join the debate team.
Oh, because joining the debate team and the chess team does not often come with secretly, sneakily taking hormones and chopping off body parts. Okay, it's like
it's exactly the same. It's a perfect equivalent. It's totally the same.
It's just like chess.
If somebody thinks you're questioning or queer, they're going to tell the teacher, and the teacher's got to call the parents.
Which they
should.
Not
the Alberta I want or that we want. And so I can say this to all the youth. We're here with you. We are going to look at every option that we have. And this is our NATO moment as an LGBTQ2 community. An attack on one of our communities is an attack on us all. And I need allies and champions to stand up. We already have the Social Worker Association of Alberta.
The social pressure. Well, you need to be an ally. You need to be a good person. You have to stand with me.
And a gal who's already mentioned that they will start a court challenge on board. There will be a rally at the legislature in Edmonton on Sunday. I will be there. And if there's ever been a time in this century for people to stand up for the kind of Canada and the kind of Alberta we want, it's today.
And it's like, well, why don't you also tell kids that they can just move out at 14 years old? Because that's basically what they're equating it to. Well, why can't you just go get a job and be on your own? If you're old enough and of sound mind enough to cut off body parts and take hormones to be forever different. Yeah, why can't you just, move out, get a job, start your life? Why not? It's all part of it.
And notice how he completely misrepresented too, because this policy was meant for minors and only minors. And he says this is an attack on all of us. First of all, no, it's not. You're 18, go do what you please. We don't care. Well, at least that's what the policy says. I have my own personal thoughts about that, but you're an adult, go do what you like. It's all available to you. No, it's not an attack on us all. And secondly, he imagines this crazy scenario where, if he thinks that a parent finds out that their kid is, let's say, questioning or whatever, or is having doubts about their identity, that their immediate thought is to say, well, it's dangerous to tell the parents. Like they immediately think the parents are the enemy, when in 99.99% of cases, parents are loving, caring, these are our kids. Like the cases that he's imagining in his head are probably a microscopic, infinitesimal fraction of what he imagines, but he paints it as if every single parent who finds out that their kid, is thinking of transitioning or what have you behind their back will immediately be like, out of my house, like all these things that he imagined. It's crazy to me, but it's not surprising because these people believe that the state knows better, because this is what they think. This is the policies they put forth. They don't even, they demonize parental rights. They say, it's parental rights are a far right talking point, whatever that even means. They're just, it's insanity. It's scary, actually, how entitled they think they are to instill these kinds of ideas into our children via the education system or with what have you.
Yeah, it's and we know as Americans the pull that big pharma has over almost certainly over the medical industry. We know now for certain that doctors were getting kickbacks for pushing the vax. during the lockdowns. And we all know because of, documentaries like Matt Walsh's What is a Woman, and just from a lot of information that's come out, just how much money is made off of these surgeries and treatments. And all signs point to, yeah, we want these kids to go ahead and get these surgeries and treatments so we can make this money. Don't give them time to think about it. Don't give them a few years to grow out of this stage, which happens the majority of the time. And certainly don't give them a chance to check in with their parents who love them, who birthed them, who raised them, who are responsible for bringing them into the world and making them functioning adults. No, don't check in with those people. Just make your own decision at 14 years old with teachers who are, if these surgeries go south and there's something gets botched and the teacher's not going to be there for you in 5-10 years, or the government officials are not going to be checking in with you 10 years later. Oh, you're sterilized. How can I help you? Let me find you a therapist. No, the people that are going to be there for you are your parents. And if you leave them out of this process, they're the people who will support you the most through it. So it's just disgusting.
I believe that the teachers are responsible even for kids getting these ideas, maybe not as much as social media influence, the likes of TikTok. I've heard of several cases where a young person comes across this stuff and then starts down that journey, and it's the likes of TikTok and Instagram that radicalizes them into thinking that this is what they need. It's very unfortunate that this is happening.
Well, for sure, because on social
people.
media, you're seeing the most glamorized version. You're seeing the best looking people with the best filters, the best makeup. They make it. And if you're an awkward preteen or teenager going like, God, I don't feel comfortable in my body, as most preteens and teenagers do, and have always been since the beginning of time. I mean, like, I'm a millennial, like we were all awkward and weird looking in middle school, and that was how we liked it. I mean, there was no social media, we had braces, bad hair, and then now it's like the average middle schooler looks on their phone and you're like, oh wow, I guess I have to look like Kylie Jenner. I guess I need a fake ass even to compete with these other middle schoolers. I mean, it's insane. And that is what kind of that is what is being discussed now in these Senate Judiciary hearings here in the United States, like just how far reaching the effects of social media is. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the trans agenda, because if you're a confused kid seeing the most glamorized version of a trans person, you're gonna be like, well, that person seems happy. Look, they have all these deals, they're getting this free stuff. It seemed like they're not insecure anymore. That's what I want to be. And it's like, you don't know the path that person had to take to be there. You don't know anything about them. You don't know who they're being paid by to say what, to promote what. And it's just super dangerous. And these kids are being targeted at their most sponge-like time of life, at their most insecure.
Exactly.
And they're just taking such advantage. The George Habib podcast. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Kat, thoughts on separation? Feels like the lib NDPBQ, God, I don't even know what any of that stands for, are holding the prairies back. I'm based in QC and don't see a conservative shift happening.
Separation. I don't know if I have a solidified thought on that. My instinct is to fight for Canada and to not separate. I think we're quite close on booting Trudeau out of power in the next election. And so I'm not quite at the stage where my initial gut reaction is to say, yes, separate now. There's no hope. I don't necessarily agree that there is no conservative shift in Quebec. That's what QC stands for, because I recall a story that I did with that the news outlet that I work with put out, where record fundraising happened for the Conservatives in Quebec. So it may not be that visible right now, but I'm an optimist. I believe the shift is happening. The fact that Danielle Smith put out this announcement, for me, is a very good thing. I'm optimistic about that. So I also come from a communist country. I come from Soviet Union. My parents brought me to Canada when I was younger. So I'm just not willing to give up quite yet. I don't see that it's completely lost beyond all hope. Being on social media, perpetually online, I see a lot of people waking up. So for me personally, it's not the initial reaction that I think about when I hear separation. I think I think Canada is salvageable. Maybe that's just the optimism in me. That's my optimistic self, but I'm not willing to give up just yet. Like I said many times over and over to friends and online, I said, I would rather die fighting on my feet than live on my knees, So
Yeah.
that's my personal stance on it.
No, I agree with that. You don't want to bail on your country that you love, and it's just someone's gonna
My
have to
parents
deal
gave
with
up,
it. Yeah.
yeah, my parents gave up everything to bring me here, to bring me and my sister here. We fled the Soviet Union. We, got on a plane that was bound for Cuba, and we hopped off in Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada. And I love this country. It treated me a million times better than my former country did, and I'm just not, willing to hand my hands down and say, well, I give up. Like, there's no hope. I'm still standing. I'm still a voice, and so long as there's one person willing to fight, and I believe there's more than one, I think there's hope.
Definitely. And when would be the next election, the next chance to vote Trudeau out?
2025.
Okay. Wow, that's coming up.
So
Yeah.
we're still a year out, but there is one other way that it could happen sooner, but it's not going to happen because that would require the coalition to so the NDP that you saw in that super chat stands for the New Democratic Party. That's one of the political parties in Canada. It's never going to win, like at federal level. It doesn't have that kind of support, but they're propping up Trudeau and the Liberals, and the man who is heading that party has a nice big pension waiting for him if he manages to hang on for the entire duration. So he does criticize Trudeau and the Liberals, but he's definitely not going to call for that non-confidence vote because his fat pension depends on it. So
Yeah,
2025.
He doesn't want to lose that bag. Thank you, Madge Demon. My goodness, how generous. Thank you for the 50 Chrissie Mayr memberships and then 10 more Chrissie. So 60 Chrissie Mayr memberships from Madge Demon. Thank you so much. You're not so much of a demon anymore. Maybe change your name to Madge the Angel. Thank you so much. And from Little Sausage, they didn't end the residential school system. They expanded it to include everyone. They want to take our kids for indoctrination.
I mean, it's not entirely inaccurate.
Yeah, it's just very similar to the bullshit going on in America. And 10 more! My God, Madge! Enough! You're too much. You're too kind. 70 Chrissie Mayr memberships from Madge. Wow, everyone. You get a membership.
How do those get assigned? Can I get one of those?
I think they're assigned randomly to whoever is in the chat right now.
Oh, okay.
Very cool. Ghost Moose, I think America should annex Alberta and Saskatchewan.
The two conservative provinces, for those who don't know. Yeah, those are the two most conservative provinces right now with conservative leadership. Both premiers are conservative. So yeah, that, Tucker joked about coming to liberate Canada.
Oh yeah, I heard that. He left that voicemail for Trudeau a few weeks ago. That was really funny. God, I always thought Saskatchewan was like a type of Asian chicken. I need to get out more.
Like Szechuan, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Szechuan?
Okay, I was confusing it for Szechuan. Okay, I want to take a trip to Szechuan, Canada at some point.
We would love to have you up in here.
I've only really
Tucker
been
would
to
with open arms. So like,
yeah, I've only really been to I think like just over Niagara Falls. Other than that, I've not really been to Canada much.
Any conservative American, as the joke goes, like Canadian politics is boring, although not anymore, thanks to Justin Trudeau over the last several years. So much so that even Tucker pays attention now. So any big, prominent conservative voice such as yourself would be welcomed with open arms, and you would have an audience here for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. And I like that because some of the countries that started this were ones that were very early to adapt the like the transgender affirming surgery. Like, what was it? Like a lot of the Scandinavian countries really first to adapt to it, first to bring it on, but now they're the first to start making it illegal, to stomping it out. Like basically what, like Sweden, Finland,
Yeah,
Norway.
good for them. I hope, I hope that spreads. I'm glad that that's happened in Canada, starting in Alberta. I hope it spreads because we need sanity back, because this is just utter insanity. Like, have you seen some of the images from these surgeries?
Oh yeah, I can't stop them from. They're all up in my timeline. I'll be eating
Yeah,
breakfast, and then one will come up, be like, "Oh God!" Like a friend of
it's
mine. This is how
brutal.
accustomed I am to seeing these pictures. Is that a friend of mine posted a picture of just her eating a big chicken leg, and I was like, I didn't even realize it was chicken at first. I thought it was a failed or a botched phalloplasty, and I was like, oh no! I just thought it was like someone trying to grow a dick on their arm, and it went awry. And I'm like, "Oh, no, that's just chicken." Okay. So
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome. It's unfathomable to me that adults don't look at those photos and immediately they don't have a gut reaction to say, this is so wrong for young people. Like, how can they possibly, like, it's sickening how they're almost giddy at the prospect of young people making these decisions. Look how extreme their rhetoric goes. Well, you hate queer kids, and parents will disown them and harm their children if they find out that they're questioning or whatever. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. Like,
they
just
don't
one glance at
yeah,
these pictures and
because they don't actually care. They don't actually care about these kids. They see them as constituents, as voters, as part of their gang. It's like expanding their rank. Just like the migrant crisis is out of control, and our leaders here, I mean, Biden sees them out. Like, it's like, you just see them as voters. That's it. Like, you don't actually care what's happening to them. You don't actually care if they get jobs or integrate or succeed. You're just happy to have the American taxpayers pay for them. And while you dole out millions to keep wars going that are completely unnecessary. And it's like the same thing with the transgender. Like these people don't care. They just go, okay, this is more people for our team. Because the more trans and queer kids there are, the more they can push their agendas. And the more, like, it's kind of like just it solidifies their own position in life, it's like job security for them.
yeah, I mean, you said it right when you said they just see these people as voters. That is why you now see in America and in Canada the push to lower the voting age. So they're literally pandering to these poor, confused, and vulnerable youth, and because they see them as a ticket to their own perpetual power.
How sad
That's
is that?
basically
Like
what it
that
is.
you have to rely on the percentage of of people that are young and confused and don't know any better, who are like uh want to solve their insecurity with like drugs and life altering surgery. Yeah, that's the people you need to win elections. Okay, that should say something about you.
Well, it says everything about them. These people have no standards. The only standards they have is double standards. They have no morals, and the only thing that drives them is power. I don't know how much you're familiar with the work of James Lindsay, but
I love James.
I've read
He's great.
James. I know he's amazing, and that's one of the things. One of the key issues that he highlights, that these people only want power. I know he's not the only one saying this. There's other people that have pointed it out, but that's what drives them, and they will achieve it by any means necessary, even if it means the butchering and mutilating of young, vulnerable people.
Mhm.
It's disgusting.
Cuz the more, and I think it's gosh, what is it? Like maybe 30% of Gen Z identify as some kind of LGBTQ plus. So
Yeah.
they love that because it's like, "Ooh, good. The more trans and queer people there are, the more we have job security, the more big pharma is happy about that, the more lifelong customers that they get. And the therapists are happy, they get lifelong customers.
Yeah.
The
I
government's
mean,
happy because anything they can do to separate kids from their parents, just like how single motherhood is kind of glamorized in this country. It's like, great, I can separate women from men. Great. That's more dependence that the government is going to have. More people are going to rely on us. So they do it with single moms and they do it with confused teenagers.
That's their strategy: divide, pit people against each other, conquer. They have they're ruthless in that regard, the left. And they think about it. I don't know, like Jordan Peterson has this this saying, where this idea that you can't they can't even define how far is too far on the left. Like, they have a clear idea of what's too far right. We don't want those people.
Mhm.
But none of them was able to determine, well, what's too far left? What's alt left? That conversation isn't even happening. The same person, the average person like yourself, like myself, will say, okay, well, maybe mutilating and sterilizing minors is alt left, is far left. Maybe we don't do that. But they can't even verbalize what they would think is too far for them, because it seems like nothing's too far. I recall reading an article where medical professionals are arguing that kids know that they're born in the wrong body as young as some ridiculous young age, like infanthood. Like when I nearly spit my drink out when I read that. I'm like, are you guys insane? You're literally insane. This is, for the lack of a better word, it's demonic.
Mhm. It really is. Like, well, he played with the blue plushie, so it must be a boy.
Right?
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
It
He
makes no
doesn't
sense.
like getting his hair cut. That must mean that, he's definitely not a boy anymore, because he's scared of big, shiny, sharp-looking things going
Yeah.
near his head.
He has a fear of scissors, of sharp objects. Ghost News, please annex us. We have oil. I know you guys love that stuff, and they're currently banning guns. Can't buy a handgun here anymore. Ugh.
Yeah, that's Trudeau's latest policy. I think he banned like 1,500 types of firearms in his latest attempt at the gun grab. We have some pushback on that. I believe one of the premiers was saying that we will not be enforcing the buyback legislation that Trudeau forced down Canada's throat. So there's definitely pushback, and the leader of the opposition in Canada, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, he's definitely standing up for gun rights. We don't have a Second Amendment in Canada, but we do have gun use for sport shooting and for hunting and etc. So but of course, the petty tyrant that Trudeau is, even though, let's say, I think it was like 10 years back, he said something along the lines like he would never put forth legislation like that, and here we are. He backtracked on everything, and he's just proving to be a total communist dictator, like the communist dictator in China that he admires so much. I don't know if you've seen that clip. It's pretty viral, where he says he admires the basic dictatorship of China. And that didn't clue in the media and the journalists to be like, maybe for the leader of a free country in the West, maybe that's not a good thing to say. Maybe you shouldn't be leading a free country, a supposedly free country, if you admire a communist basic dictatorship. Like,
yeah, he's just saying that for brownie points. The same way like
problem.
Joe Biden totally simps for China, and it's like you're getting some sort of globalist or Chinese social credit score points for that or something. It's like you're just saying that to, I guess, impress the right people. The George Habib podcast again. Doubt Pierre wins. Many I knew were on the Pierre train, but then he keeps losing. He keeps posting pro-Israel, losing brown, Arab, Muslim, and student votes. Margins are slim.
I don't know about that. The latest polls that I've seen have him projected to win basically a majority government in the next election. So I don't know how much I agree with that.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that you are a Jordan Peterson fan. I am too. He's a doll. His daughter Michaela is a doll. I love the whole family. Here Jordan is who is this gal? Jyoti Gondek.
Oh, gosh, another woke New Democrat party political person. Very, very angry at this latest announcement from Danielle Smith, like the rest of the lefties. I don't recall what she said in that tweet. Oh yeah.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
she's
pull
basically
up.
having the same hissy fit that all of them are, pretty much.
She's gonna be just searching for allies. Here she is with her rainbow background. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Peterson ratios Madwoman Gondek over trans kids comment. He ratioed Jody Gondek, calling her a madwoman after the Calgary mayor made a comment about trans kids. Peterson's comment came after Gondek responded to Premier Danielle Smith's planned policy announcement related to transgender issues, namely banning surgeries for youth under 18 and hormone therapy for kids under 16. Smith also announced educational policies that will require parental consent of pronoun changes and ministry approval of third-party resources that pertain to gender ideology. So I guess that would be, counselors. Maybe there are some resources that help with your transition overall. Gondek responded with predictable outrage after the effect such policies will have on trans kids. It's like, everyone care about their own kids. This is just such a huge overstep. It's like, where's this concern for like kids with cancer? Where's all this concern for kids injured by various jabs?
Exactly.
But there's just
Remember
no money
when
on that.
I don't know how it was in the States, but they literally lured children 12 years of age and over with free ice cream for the certain jabs. Yeah.
Jordan said, "You're a mad woman, Jody Gondek, and the trans kids you're quote trans kids you're lying about are sad, isolated, confused kids sacrificed on the altar of your moral virtue. You're a traitor to the spirit of motherhood, pushing medical crimes reminiscent of nothing so much as Unit 17. Trigger warning. Let's see. Look it up at your peril. I think you are utterly and unforgivably despicable." Woo! The fire.
I'm guessing Unit 17, without having looked it up, I'm guessing Unit 17 has something to do with Dr. Mengele.
Okay, I was gonna say we're like Nuremberg.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Let's see.
Mengele was that psycho doctor from late 30s, early 40s Germany.
Oh, the one that like they did experiments on folks in the Holocaust. Yeah, there was so much of that shit going on.
Kids. Not just folks, kids.
Yikes,
Yeah.
it's really disturbing. Gondek received
don't
more.
quote me, that's just my guess.
No, I bet that sounds familiar. Gondek received more responses to her post than likes. Ava Karlova, Albertan and writer for Redux Mag, self-proclaimed Canada's preeminent lesbian. Oh, what a title. Also disputed the idea that trans kids exist. Oh, hey, Mayor, nice to see you've unblocked me. There's no such thing as trans kids. You and your ilk would have sterilized me as a child, and you champion doing it to other girls just like me. Stop transing the gay away. It's inhumane. That is a big issue too. It's like we can't be tomboys. We can't have effeminate gay guys. You got to cross over.
Yeah. Billboard Chris talks about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He says they're just, they're pushing with this gender ideology. They're just enforcing the gender stereotypes. They're trying to say there's only one way to be a girl and there's only one way to be a boy. And if you don't fit that, outdated standard, that outdated, norm, like then you must be a trans. So they're like, she said it perfectly, you're transing the gay away. There's so many people from the same people. They're now called conservatives because of their stance on this issue.
It's literally the opposite. When they say you're putting kids' lives at risk, it's like if you were to do the math on the risk of suicide, all the statistics are out there at the kids that go through this process, because it doesn't fix anything. It's just a big expensive distraction. It's the best role models are people who, I think Blair White may have transitioned slightly, maybe in her teens, but then you have someone like Buck Angel who transitioned as an adult, and the examples of people who had successful transitions, they're very few and far between. The overwhelming majority of them, it's like their problems are not fixed. They just get additional, more expensive problems. And the way you're not going to put kids' lives at risk is to help them, slow them down, get them in therapy, get them close with their parents again, and work through it. But it's like, no, they just they make it political, and they don't actually care about the kids because they just want their team to win.
Yeah, I mean, they're despicable like that. Absolutely.
Ghost Moose, she's Jody Gondik, mayor of Calgary. Ghost Moose. Yeah, Gondik.
That's funny.
Goodbye. And this article here kind of does go hand in hand with what's going on. This basically absolves Big Pharma of getting informed consent. I don't know how they're going to try to roll this out, but they're basically FDA is making a disturbing move towards medical tyranny by removing the requirement to get informed consent for what they call minimal risk studies. Informed consent is the ethical term that describes a patient's right to be given full understanding of a medical intervention, including all potential risks, before agreeing to receive it. The FDA claims the policy change will provide cost savings and healthcare advances. So by not knowing as much about what's about to happen to you, that's going to somehow save you money. The alteration will allow institutional review boards to waive informed consent requirements when they determine there is minimal risk in clinical trials. Okay, and who's overseeing these clinical trials? How thorough are they? We all know clinical trials are heavily influenced by who is paying for them. But don't worry, as long as there's a minimal risk in these clinical trials, we don't need to inform you about what's going on. FDA believes the amendment provides appropriate safeguards to protect the rights, safety, and welfare of the human subjects participating. It's like, we know better. You guys are stupid, okay? Don't think for yourselves. We'll handle it. We'll handle all the thinking for you.
I would like to know what they mean by minimal risk. Look what happened with the last jabs. They said minimal risk, and now look what's happening. So it's all very egregious. It's all
they can keep saying it's minimal risk when they don't actually keep track of the injuries, when they don't actually categorize them or log them accurately.
Exactly. And they dismiss the self-reported risks. I believe it's there's a website where you can self-report, and I don't believe they even acknowledge those. So
no.
And doctors are extremely adamant in saying, no, it's definitely not that. Absolutely not that. So it's just.
But several critics of the development are condemning the development on social media. U.S. President RFK Jr. called it a direct violation of the Nuremberg Code. Kennedy, who is chairman on leave of the Children's Health Defense, further stated that this change means researchers can experiment on you without your knowledge or permission, so long as they claim what they're testing is safe. That's exactly what they're claiming. And who checks these guys? Yeah. What makes us want to trust these guys when a lot of these big pharma companies have deals where they have no liability?
Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. Doctors worried Big Pharma will abuse new policy. Dr. Lyons Weiler, a systems biologist and geneticist, said that the likelihood of Big Pharma abusing this new ruling is high. Of course they will. He stated the ruling is wrong in every way possible when it comes to the culture of informed consent and human rights and medical rights. In December of 2022, one of Pfizer's independent data safety monitoring board members admitted in court that she was on the pharmaceutical company's payroll. Pfizer pays me to evaluate the safety of the jabs because I'm an expert. So I do get paid to do the work that I've been doing, but I've been doing the work conscientiously and comprehensively. Oh, wow. What a relief. I feel so much better.
Right? Yeah. Big Pharma has we've seen how egregious it's been over the last several years after they rolled out this rushed jab. And I read a crazy story about their origins. I don't know how much like YouTube allows for that kind of conversation, but if you scroll through my Twitter, maybe after the podcast, you can take a look. It was a guest on Joe Rogan who told a crazy story about Bayer and their origins, which are, surprise, surprise, tied to late 30s Germany. And some
they have
egregious
kind of
things.
like low-key Nazi ties. Yeah.
I wouldn't even call them low-key. I would, high key. I don't know if that's a term. An elder millennial. I'm not up with the latest lingo, but yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm gonna show this tweet. I don't know how much of it I can play, but da, 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 da. Good old Joe Rogan, Big Pharma and its ties to Nazi Germany as part of the IG Farben conglomerate, which strongly supported the Third Reich. Nobody talks about the other Reichs. We just hear about the third one all the time. It's the most criminal activities the company took advantage of the absence of legal and ethical constraints on medical experimentation to test its drugs on unwilling human subjects.
Play the clip.
Let's see here. Oh, it's only 30
We'll
seconds.
summarize it in 60 seconds.
Nazi regime shipped 150 healthy Jewish women to this pharmaceutical company to test its products. Literally, within 6 months, there's letters back to the Third Reich from this pharmaceutical company saying, "Thank you so much for your cooperation. The women arrived in great health and working order. Unfortunately, none of them made it through the initial phases of our trial. They killed 150 women. We kindly request that you send us another 150 women."
Whoa.
That little company became Bayer, which is now a mega pharmaceutical company. The Nazi regime shipped
why am I not surprised by any of this?
Yeah, there's at this point, like, I don't know if there's much that could surprise me. Like, this is just a fraction of what we know, what I've seen. Like, how much more is there? You know?
Yeah, and they probably told those
that,
ladies, "Oh, don't worry, safe and effective. You'll be fine. Now just march into this gas chamber, won't you? Be a doll."
It's horrific. Like, I've never had less trust for these people after the last several years, and after learning that, like,
same here in this country. We've lost trust in doctors, in our basically all branches of our armed forces, cops, even. It's very sad. Institutional trust, all-time low. Just in the time that you've spent living in Canada, have you seen much of a pushback, like enough pushback to make you feel hopeful about the future, about the pendulum actually swinging back?
in the times of the lockdowns, I would have said no. But now that that's sort of behind us, and the leader of the opposition, the conservative leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, was gaining so much momentum, and I think he's playing like the long smart game. He's not just coming out with all the things that people want him to come out with, like, right now. Like, he's playing it smart. I think he'll eventually get to to all the issues that Canadians are concerned about. Now that I see this wave behind him and the massive rallies that he's garnering, I am hopeful. In the current climate, I am hopeful because people are no longer timid to say what they think. I see that a lot. Friends, family that I have that typically are not very political are sort of slowly coming around and saying, well, like, hold on a second, like, I voted for Trudeau, but this is ridiculous. And I've had friends who were so gung-ho when he first got elected that literally were waving thank you signs for the Freedom Convoy truckers that were on their way to Ottawa to protest all the madness. So maybe it is the optimist in me, but at the current state of things, I am optimistic and I am hopeful. I see even my own personal social media growing, quite rapidly, which is kind of nice. I feel like I have a voice and people are supporting the things that I'm saying, and I see, conservative MPs in Canada getting a lot of support when they say, the right and rational, sane thing. So I'm personally optimistic, and I think there is still hope for Canada.
Yeah, I remember when Trudeau first got voted in, I was like, oh, he's cute. Let's hear what he has to say. Like, before I knew anything about his policies or his values or just his globalist ties. So, we all sort of have a
well, I don't even
phase.
blame the people that fell for his shtick. Like, he came out promising the world transparency, voting reform, all these things that you can think of that sounded really nice. For the young people, he promised legalized marijuana. So he, he'd said some nice things, but as soon as he was elected, all of that went out the door. I've read a book put out by one of the conservative media owners in Canada, Ezra Levant. He put out a book called The Libranos, which literally details exactly what Trudeau promised and exactly everything that he failed to deliver, and became even worse than what he complained about the former conservative government. So he was just basically, for the lack of a better expression, poop wrapped in gold. Like he's done horrific things to this country, and people are realizing it. So yeah.
Would you agree here that the news is censored in Canada?
Well, they did push forward and they did ram through the bill that prevents news article links from being posted to social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. So yes, he did manage that, but there is a lot of pushback against that, and we're hoping that will be reversed, because that is one of the things that his opposition is campaigning on, that he wants to bring back freedom of speech, freedom of the press. His slogan is to make Canada the freest country. So I'm hoping that he can reverse some of the damage that Trudeau has done. It's obviously not going to happen overnight, and it'll take every single person to continue the momentum and the pushback against the woke leftist nonsense, the censorship, the insane policies when it comes to the subject that we spoke about earlier, with transgenderism, etc. But I think we can get some stuff done once he's finally booted out of Ottawa.
I think a good slogan for his opposition would be like bros before Trudeau's. I think someone should pick that up. Those moves, February. Yes, bros before Trudeau's. February is Blackface History Month for Trudeau. Oh yes, everyone remember to celebrate. And it's do you guys have Groundhog's Day in Canada?
Oh, you know what? I'm not even sure.
Have you heard of a guy, a famous viral Canadian weatherman named Frankie McDonald?
No, I haven't.
He lives in Sydney, Nova Scotia. He calls into my Compound Media show every Monday. He's like a big Compound Media caller. He is so fun. He's like,
okay.
He's a little autistic, but he's a blast, and he's just constantly giving weather updates. He's great.
I'll have to look into it.
Check him out. He's famous. He's viral. He's a very big deal. I'm lucky he even gives me the time of day. Cat, you have a YouTube channel. Everyone needs to subscribe to Cat's YouTube channel. Is this kind of a newer thing for you?
It is, yeah. It's just something that I started and I wanted to give a shot at. So I started it a few months ago. I'm not posting too consistently right now because, mom, kids and all that. But yeah, I'm hoping to grow it. And thank you for the shout out. Thank you to everyone who subscribes. It's just Cat Kanada on YouTube. Yeah.
Everyone subscribe. Everyone follow you on Twitter, on Instagram, all of the places. Where else can they follow you?
So those are the main platforms. My main platform is Twitter. It's the one that allows me to have growth and a voice. So it's Cat Kanada on Twitter, at Cat Kanada _TM, Canada with a K. Instagram, same handle. YouTube, same handle.
Okay,
those
awesome.
3 platforms. Yeah.
This was another big news story today. Let's see. It was the Senate Judiciary hearing. This kind of does go hand in hand, like what is social media's role in basically children's lives? Where does the responsibilities of a parent end and those responsibilities of a big tech company begin? So there was a tech CEO hearing last couple of days. Let's see, they were grilled by Congress on Wednesday about the risks their products pose to young people. They had the executives of Meta, which is Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, and X, formerly known as Twitter, testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier on Wednesday. It was interesting because there was basically a kind of a force. So one of our senators, Senator Josh Hawley, basically made Zuckerberg apologize to the parents of children who died, because it's proven that Facebook, aka Meta, absolutely profits from the lack of child safety, sexual exploitation of children. They looked into it, and they basically said of girls that are between 13 and 15-year-old who use, I think, Instagram, they said 30 to 40% of them, I forget the statistic, are sent unwanted sexual images or are propositioned within the first 7 days on the app. So kids are getting extorted, manipulated. A lot of times they'll be manipulated into like sending explicit photos of themselves. Like these predators will kind of trick these kids into sending these photos, and then they'll ask for even more, threatening that they'll release these photos, and it's just very hypocritical, because you look at the things that Facebook, Instagram were censoring during the lockdowns. They suppressed speech, all the Hunter Biden story, any kind of skepticism, any kind of jab injuries. They're very quick to censor and be on top of that stuff. But the safety of children always never seems to be a priority. And so this was just to discuss, the point of this was to discuss basically limiting age of users on the platforms and the length of use. And they know that these things will affect their bottom line, which is why I think it was Facebook and TikTok not in a rush to sign on, because they know it'll hurt their bottom line to sort of clamp down on these, to have age restrictions or length of time for use. And the families of victims were a massive force in the hearing. They were applauding, they were laughing at the CEO testimony, they were hissing, there were moments of silence. Parents who say their children suffered or died as a result of social media. I mean, in this country, like, I think kids were and / are still able to buy fentanyl from Snapchat, which is just insane.
Yeah.
So
I recall even them being able to buy hormones. Like some activist was saying, like, I will help you procure hormones if you couldn't like access them somehow. Like, yeah, it's quite dangerous. And I mean, it's not surprising that they're so reluctant, of course, because these people, like, power, money, this is what motivates them. They don't care who gets hurt in the process. That's quite clear by their actions.
Powering financial solutions that transform industries.
I think this is a clip of Mark Zuckerberg actually turning and facing the parents and apologizing to them at one point. And commercial.
Here today, have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now? Well, they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
Dogging him. They're basically saying, sorry that happened to you.
And this is why we
like, you can't really
so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
It just seems like they're paying a lot of lip service that they're going to make changes.
Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not be sued for this? Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable personally? Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean,
it's just lip service. It's like they know what's going on, they profit from it, and they're just dancing around it. I wonder, they're talking if they'll compensate the families affected by this. Children are not your priority. Children are your product. Blackburn told Zuckerberg in a tense exchange. Yeah, you've convinced over 2 billion people to give up all their personal information, every bit of it, in exchange for getting to see what their high school friends had for dinner on Saturday night. That's what it was like in the beginning. Oh, remember the beginning of Facebook?
I do. And now where they censored stories like Hunter Biden's laptop, etc. Watch that closely. I can't believe how they just so in unison took all that down. They're literally interfering with elections. It's crazy.
Yeah, and this was one of the rare things that kind of the left and the right did come together on, so I guess that's nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Everyone's in agreement that that Facebook sucks. Simon Ho, thanks for the super chat. Have they passed that anti-protest law against drag queen shows? There's a few mean ones. I demand they shave their beards before they scare children.
I'm not quite sure what he's talking about.
I don't know. Do you mean for the States or do you mean for Canada? Okay, well, thank you, Simon, anyway. I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. Okay.
I know they banned protests near, like within, I believe it's 500 meters of the schools in Canada.
Oh,
So
wow.
parents can't, protest anything the teachers might be doing at a school. I know there's that. In terms of the drag queens, I know that there's some crazy legislation that was passed. I can't recall the province, but something to the tune of where you literally can't refer to them as what rhymes with broomers.
Okay.
So yeah, they're just being the speech is being weaponized against people in Canada with some of this legislation. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk a little bit what you were doing today? So you told me you were, I guess, helping to make clips or to write questions while Danielle Smith was I guess giving her speech.
Yeah, so she was giving the live speech that was kind of a follow-up to her announcement yesterday, and reporters were there to ask questions, including the news outlet that I work with, the Counter Signal, who I do social media for, and I was just basically trying to clip poignant clips of questions from, well, mainly from our editor-in-chief, Kian Bexty, and also clips from the state broadcaster that they're trying to play gotcha with for Danielle. She wasn't having it. She fielded them quite nicely. So that's what I was doing. It was she was going live. It was announced, and as I was about to go live with you that happened. Sorry about that, but
oh no, that's way more important. I'm just glad it's actually kind of more exciting because then you can come on and talk about it after the fact. So very exciting, Kat. Anything else coming up for you that you're excited to work on or cover?
So we will be monitoring the Danielle Smith's announcement very closely. We will be compiling all the meltdowns and showing them to people to see these people are crazy for the reaction that they're having. That's what we'll be covering in the next few days, because there will be a lot of pushback. I believe it just started because, as you know, in Canada, we don't have a whole lot of independent media. There's a few outlets like the outlet that I work with, the Counter Signal. There's Rebel News, but there's a few more that are sort of in Western Canada, I believe. But nothing as big as the States has. So it's going to be we're going to be fielding a lot from the meltdown left about all of this. So that's what we're covering in the next little bit. And in terms of any big events, I don't have anything set that's concrete, but I hope to make it out to a Jordan Peterson event at some point in the future, and that'll be super exciting.
Is he touring right now?
He's got a tour happening. Yeah, it's there's a lot of dates in the States. I kind of have my sights set on the Florida speech that he's giving, because I've always wanted to go to Florida. It's pretty based over there. I have a friend or two over there, and I'm hoping to make it out to that. I'm not sure if I will, but I'm trying to plan for it, because it was super exciting when Tucker came to Alberta, and I flew in for that. Jordan Peterson was there, and you saw that Tucker gave me a few moments, and I spoke with Jordan briefly as well. I didn't quite catch that on film, but it was still very, very exciting. So those are my plans.
Very
And
cool, Kat. Yeah, come to Florida. If you come to New York for any reason at all, that's where I live. I know it seems crazy, but if you get lost and find yourself in New York, hit me up. You can come on my show in studio. But I could understand. I could understand prioritizing Florida over New York right now. I just wanted to put that out there. Kat, thank you so much for coming on. You're great. I really appreciate your insight, and thank you to the chat for your comments and questions. Everyone follow Cat right now at Cat Kanada _TM on YouTube and Twitter, on Instagram at Cat Kanada with a K. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Chrissy.
And we will see you guys next time. Bye.